To start off this cheesecake, take one box of peanut butter sandwich cookies or just peanut butter cookies in general for a spin in your food processor until they are crumbs, and then add half a stick of melted butter and pulse that in. Spray down a 9-inch pan, it can be springform or regular, it doesn't really matter, and then pop the crust into it, press it in, and then bake in a 400-degree oven for 10 minutes. In the bowl of your mixer, stand or hand, doesn't matter which, place 5 bricks of cream cheese and mix on high speed for about 5 minutes until it's nice and creamy. You might have to stop halfway through to scrape down the sides of the bowl. Once the cream cheese is softened, add 1 1/3 cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, and 1 cup of peanut butter powder, and then mix on low speed till it's thoroughly combined. A quick word about powdered peanut butter. So this stuff is very familiar to most bodybuilders, I'm sure, people who make a lot of smoothies, because it's a really good way to add peanut butter without actually, adding peanut butter. It's also very good in baked goods, because depending on the brand of peanut butter you buy, it can either be really oily or way too sweet, so I like to use it here. And it makes the cheesecake a little thicker, which I like, and to me it helps it bake up a little more nicely, but that is just me. So you can find this usually in the baking aisle. It's right next to like the organic gluten-free flour and stuff. Do not get the kind with chocolate flavoring in it unless you want that in your cheesecake. That's perfectly fine, or you just want that flavor in general. 2 tablespoons of water will also make this into a nice peanut butter for, your sandwiches. And if you can't find it there, check next to like the protein shake powder mix or something. You will be able to find this in your store, I promise. Once the dry ingredients are mixed in, add in 5 eggs and 2 egg yolks, 1 yolk at a time, mixing until each egg yolk has been thoroughly integrated. You might have to stop and scrape down the sides of the bowl, which I really should have done while filming this. Next, pour in 1 cup each of jelly, whatever flavor you want, sour cream, and a Cool Whip type whipped cream. Make sure it's thawed, and then mix it on low speed for about 3 minutes just to make sure everything is thoroughly integrated. Place the batter into your now prepared graham cracker crust and bake in a 225-degree oven for 2 to 2.5 hours, or until the center just looks set. If it looks done in the oven, it will be overcooked by the time it cools off. Remove from the oven and let sit on the counter for 1 hour, then let sit in the refrigerator overnight. Now, I will say, this is an excellent cheesecake with very good flavor, although if you want to up your cheesecake game a little bit and maybe make it better than a certain factory, well, we're going to have to start with step 1, which is set your immersion circulator to 176 degrees. A quick word about this device. An immersion circulator is basically this thing. It is going to heat the water to 176 degrees and hold it there. That way we can get the cheesecake to hit the exact perfect temperature without going over, causing cracks or drying. Now, we can do this in an oven with a water bath, but this is easier. If you're really serious about your cheesecake, I would suggest buying one of these. You can get one for as little as $50 and as much as $200. I'd say land somewhere in the middle price-wise. You can also use a pot. If you're going to use a big container like this, I'd do it in the sink the first few times, just to be safe. It has not exploded on me yet, but you never know. Plastic gets very, very hot. If you don't have a sink that's big enough to do this, you could also do this in your bathtub. I would not physically use the inside of your sink or your bathtub for this device, because the lining might not agree with the heat the water eventually gets, and also, sanitation reasons. Fill 12 to 24 mason jars with our peanut butter cookie crust and bake in a 400-degree oven for 10 to 15 minutes. Now, you can use bigger jars if you want to. I'm using 4-ounce jars because I think they make a reasonable single serving, and in my experience, they do cook the most evenly. Then load up your jars using a 4-ounce ladle, underfill it a little bit because there's already the crust in the bottom. I overfilled a few of these, admittedly, so just let them sit for like 10 to 15 minutes, no matter how overfilled they might be, to let them settle a bit. Then if you need to, scoop some out as you're putting the lids on. Screw the jars basically finger tight because they're going to tighten up as the jars heat up, and we don't want to have to use the jaws of life to open them up later on. Alrighty, so next up, start loading up the jars once the water has come to the heat, of course. Whatever you do not stick your bare hand in here because 176 degrees is pretty close to 212, which is boiling, so use either what I'm doing and use a jar lifter or tongs or even heat-proof gloves if you can find ones that will withstand that kind of temperature. And if a jar tips over, prop it back up. You're going to have to get a pretty fine layer on the bottom, and then you can kind of start double stacking. It won't hurt anything, just we don't want jars sliding around during the cooking process. Cook these for 90 minutes, remove, place them on the counter, and then put them in the fridge overnight. And if you see bubbles coming out, don't worry, that is just air leaving the jars. When it's fully chilled, crack open the jar and enjoy. I should also say you don't have to bake the crust into the bottom. You could just bake the cookies and sprinkle it on top, but that is completely up to you. A quick word about reusing parts. You can reuse the jars and the rings for future cheesecake or whatever endeavors you're doing. However, do not reuse the caps because those have a sealing compound that's one time only, and I did some testing. The jars did tend to leak water, so just buy the refills you can get at the store for like $2 for 12 of them. It's there, just keep an eye out for it.